Hi, my name is Joe, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to do a simple one-page business plan for 2021. Okay, now a lot of people make this extremely difficult. I used to do the same thing where you think you need a million different numbers, and like at the end of it, you just have a raging headache, and you just decide to say screw it, and you just keep doing what you currently do, which doesn't do anyone any good. So what I did is I was able to break everything down. And this is my own way, like there's different ways to do it, of course, but I'm able to basically plan everything using 8 numbers within my business. And that's it, okay? So the first thing we need to look at is your expenses. So with your expenses, we need to look at both your business and your personal expenses. Now, when it comes to your business expenses, this does not include the labor to install whatever service you have. So I personally do fences. So, this does not include the labor to install the fence. This includes like the labor for the office workers and supervisor, things like that, the warehouse, the vehicles, the insurance, all that good stuff. Now, with your personal expenses, me personally, I write down all my expenses, whatever they are, and I come up with a number. We're just going to say it's $100,000. Now, the thing you have to remember that you want to put in this is you want to put in things such as like for vacations and savings and investing and all that kind of stuff. And again, we're going to say it's $100,000. So with that, you have to remember that you have to include taxes on top of that. Talk to your CPA, but a good number is probably like 25%. Okay, so if you need 100,000, you really need 125, so that way you can pay for the taxes. Number that's really not the right number, but we're just going with that in this example. So for your expenses for the business and personal, we're going to pretend that it is, actually no, let's do blue, so everything's not mixed up. We're going to say that you need $520,000, okay, for the course of the year. So the next thing we're going to look at is the profit per week. So then all we're doing is taking 520 divided by 52. So we need $10,000 per week. Simple enough. Okay. The next thing you need to look at is your average job profit. Okay. So with the average job profit, you can be lazy if you want to and only do like 5 or 10 jobs. But if you're kind of being overzealous and you have jobs that are way more profitable than usual or way less, it's just going to skew your numbers and makes this a waste of time. So do as many as you can. So, 20, 30, 40, just to get a good example. You also want to do this for, like if you provide several different services. So in my case, again, I do fences. So we provide aluminum and vinyl, cedar, like that kind of thing. You want to get a mixture of everything on average of what you do. So if you do like 80% vinyl, 20% aluminum, then that's how I want my numbers to look when I do this, the average profit. Okay. So for this, we're going to say that the average profit per job is $2,500. Now, when I'm looking at profit, we're basically taking the total customer price minus materials, minus labor, and that gives me the profit. I'm not including the things like, the truck and the insurance and that kind of stuff. That's getting rolled into the expenses that you have. Okay. Now, the next thing we're looking at is the jobs per week. Okay. So all we have to do is you're taking the profit per week divided the profit per job, and that'll give you 4. 10,000 divided by 2,500. 4. Simple. Like that's simple. The next thing we have to look at over here is the leads per job. Okay. So if you have just say 10 phone calls and out of every 10 phone calls, you book 1 job on average, then that means you need 10 leads per job. Okay. The next thing we're looking at is the cost per lead. So if you're currently doing Facebook advertising or Google ads, then you should know what your cost per lead is. If you don't, then you have a problem. Okay. So we're going to say for this that the average cost per lead is $25. Now, this number could vary greatly. Me personally, I spend about 10 to 15 bucks per lead. And actually, we've been holding steady right around 12-ish lately. But a lot of people are going to be higher. You might be 25, 35. If you're doing things such as HomeAdvisor, it might be even higher than that. But anyway, we have that. Okay. So now we're looking at the next thing, which is the cost per job. Okay. For this, we're just taking 10 times the cost. So that gives us $250. Okay. Then the final thing is we're looking at is add cost per week. So all we're doing now is taking the $250 per job times the number of jobs, which is 4. Okay. And that gives us a grand total of $1,000. Okay. And we're pretty much done. However, since we know this, it's $1,000 a week that we need to be spending on advertising. So that's $52,000 a year. So as long as you have $52,000 allocated for advertising in your business budget, you're done. Like this is literally all you have to do. You just have to make sure you spend what you need to. Now, if you wanted to make even more money, then obviously you just spend more on ads. Now on the flip side, let's pretend that you are, I don't know, you're brand new, just starting out. So this is the numbers you need to hit, but you have no advertising budget whatsoever. Okay. So what we're going to do for this, I guess this will be more than 8 numbers, but I already have a budget allocated for advertising. And so what you want to do is first we need to find out what the profit per job is going to be after our advertising. So for this, we're just taking the 2,500 minus the 250, and that gives us 2,250. Okay. So then all you have to do now is you're going to take this 2,250. Okay. Right. I'm sorry. You're going to take your profit per week, which is the 10,000, divided by the 2,250. Now I don't have a calculator on me, but I'm going to assume it's about 4.5 jobs per week that I need to book for that. Okay. And knowing that, now I'm just taking 4.5 times 2,250, and that gives me a total of 1125. Okay. So now if you have no advertising budget set up whatsoever, and you know that you just have to hit $10,000 per week, again, you're only taking 25 minus the 250, gets you to that. And then, so now we know we just need to spend 1125 per week in order to hit this number. Like that's it. Like that whole thing's figured out. Now, this is a very generic version. This is what I personally use for my company. And like, we just have goals set for every week that, you know, we need to hit $10,000 per week. Obviously, if you're in a seasonal business like we are with the fencing, then, you know, like this year's weird because of COVID, but on average, you know, you start slowing down like November, and then you start picking up in like late March, depending on where you are. So then what you have to do is you would just look at your past numbers, and it's like, okay, on average, we have to hit $10,000 per week, but maybe, you know, for the winter months, maybe that number's gonna be closer to 7,000, but during the peak season months, then you're more at like $12,000 per week. And then as long as you're hitting your profit or your expenses for your business and personal, as long as you're hitting that, you're good to go. Okay. Also, so this is the financial part of the equation. The other thing that you have to look at within your business is the time that you personally spend within your business, because it doesn't do anyone good, especially for yourself or your family, if, you know, you're hitting your numbers, you know, to provide a stable, you know, future for your family. But if you're spending, you know, 70, 80, 90, 100 hours a week doing that, then what point is it to have, you know, provide the financial stability for your family, but you can't be there for them? So that's what you have to look at as far as the number of hours that you're spending in your business. So if you're currently working more than 60, well, then chances are then you're probably still installing the jobs. So again, in my case, a fence company. So, you know, if I was working 80 hours a week back then, I was usually installing the fence. And the quickest way to get like to really drop your hours, where you can see business owners go from like 70 hours a week to like 35 pretty easily, is you just need to give away the responsibility of the installation. So you have someone else install the fence for you, and then you basically work a hell of a lot less hours. Now, yes, it does cost you money to hire someone else to do that. And if you're already broke, you're probably thinking that you can't possibly, you know, hire someone else to do it because you're going to be in debt even more. But what you got to realize is, like, these are all simple numbers that you have to figure out. So let's just say that it's going to cost you $250 to have someone install that fence for you. So instead of making $2,500, now you're making $2,250. Okay, and because you know it's going to cost you $2,250, and the cost per job is $250, then you're making only $2,000 per job, right? So then all you do is you divide 10,000 divided by 2,000, and that gives you 5 jobs per week, right? So this is now not a 4, now it becomes a 5, right? So then all you have to do now is you take 5, multiply it by the 250, and now you have to spend $1,250. Okay? So what you see here is if you had no budget set up whatsoever, and you were, you were actually installing fences, then you just need to pay $11.25 a week in advertising to hit all your numbers. But if you would instead pay someone $250 to install that for you, well, what'll end up happening is instead of being, $11.25 per week you're now spending $1,250, like a measly $125 more. Now, these are just whole numbers. Obviously, your numbers would be different. But you can see here, at least in this example, that you can see that to stop installing a fence, all you need to do is spend a little bit more money on advertising. Like, that's all it comes down to. If you haven't seen the other videos that I've had, I always break it down to like this broken slot machine. I guess I should keep this. So what I mean by the broken slot machine is if you have if you have a financial problem within your business where you're simply not making enough money, or in this case, you're working too hard and you need to figure out a way to be able to book more jobs so that way you can pay someone else to do it while still making the same amount of money, well, then what it comes down to is the broken slot machine. Because with the broken slot machine, as you can see here, is if I go to the casino and I put in 250 bucks, right? Well, it's going to spit out 2,500. Like, it's as simple. Like, if you could go down to the casino and put in 250 bucks in this special slot machine that no one else knows about, it's in a corner in the back room somewhere. Well, you knew every time you put in $250, it was going to spit out 2,500 for a profit of $2,250. Like, how often would you do it? And the answer is you would do it every time. Would you even tell anyone about it? No, because you don't want anyone to find out about this broken slot machine. This is what I do. This is, like, in a nutshell, this is how I've been able to grow my business from, in 2018 we did about, what were we at, 1.2, and then this year we're doing about 2 million. But it's also more importantly, because money's just one aspect, but this is how I went from working, 80 hours a week down to 15 minutes a day. This simple. Like, it's literally this simple, because I realized I just need to book more jobs so that way I can pay someone else to do the work for me. You don't have to do everything all at once. I'm not saying you're going to go from 80 hours to 15 minutes a day overnight. It's just not going to happen. But what you can do is easily go from 80 hours a week. In my case, once I gave away the installations for that stuff, I went down to like 40 hours a week, like drastically. So I went from working 12 hours a day to like 5 hours a day. I mean, like 8 hours a day. Like, that's it. Like, cut out 4 hours a day just because I did that. Now I'm spending more time on answering phone calls and emails and going out to estimates and stuff. But same thing, once I got to this level, all I did is I increased my ad cost per week, and then I was able to bring someone else in. And then the next step was having someone just do the quotes for me. So then, I went from 40 hours to 20 hours. And then same thing, once I got to this level, I just increased this even more. So then I could have people answering the phone calls and emails and stuff. And again, now I'm at 15 minutes a day. I literally just check reports, and that's about it. Now, the other caveat to this, and the reason why I was able to go from 80 to 15, is because the one thing that we were doing, besides not advertising enough, the other thing we were doing, and also we weren't charging enough, is that, and there's going to be a video, hopefully it pops up, but it'll tell you basically how to charge more than anyone else without losing any jobs. It goes into this. But the other thing is you can't do everything for everyone. Like, you can't be a handyman because it's just not going to work out. When you run a business like a handyman service, so in my case with a fence company, like if I was doing like commercial and residential and I was doing like every different style of fence, and I was also doing repairs, and I was just doing railings and decks and everything else that you see a lot of other fence companies do. Well, what ends up happening is, they call it the circle of focus. So they call it the circle of focus. So, like, you start it here. Okay? Seems like it's fine. So we're going to pretend that, for me, I have vinyl. Just pretend I did vinyl. Like, all my focus is vinyl. Can't even spell vinyl correctly. So this is 100% of my focus. So, everything that we do, all the advertising, all the quotes we go out to, the estimates we put together, all that kind of stuff, we're only doing this. But then if I added, aluminum, and then I did like chain link, and then I also did decks, and I also did railings, and then I was also doing repairs. So then what ends up happening is, instead of focusing on just one thing and giving it my all, what happens is I'm splitting into like 6-7 different things. So now everything's getting like 15% of my attention. Well, like anything else, like if you're only giving 15% of your effort towards railing or repairs or whatever it's going to be, how well do you think it's going to go? Not only that, it's a lot of different running around. So like if I was doing all these different things, and especially if you're doing, the perfect example is like, stop doing jobs that you personally have to do. I see a lot of fence contractors that are posting all these custom jobs and everything else that they have to be on site for, which is great, and they look awesome. Like, they really do. Like, it's crazy. But the money's not in there. Like, it's just not, because what you're going to realize, and this is what I have a program, it's called the Profit Planner, that goes through all this, is when you start doing all this stuff, you basically take yourself and, like, just say you did vinyl only. and you can hire a crew to do it and everything else. So you're no longer working 80 hours a week. You're like working 40 hours a week or whatever it may be. So what happens when you're just doing the one thing, you might be making, 150, 200 bucks an hour or more, depending on what's going on, for your own personal time. Like, I don't care about other people. Like, I'm only looking at myself. So, you might be making 200 bucks an hour with vinyl. But because you started adding other stuff, like repairs. So now repairs, you actually have to be on site because it's something, or a deck. Deck's a good example. Like decks, there's way more money in it than fencing. But if you have to personally be there for the deck, and, with vinyl, you only had to be at the job site for 2 hours, and you made $2,500, well, that's $12.50 an hour. Obviously, the expenses you have to tie in, but for the gross profit, per hour, you're making like $12.50 an hour. But if you were making $5,000, right, and you had to be there for 10 hours instead, just a second, obviously it's going to be more, but now you're making only $500 per hour. So me personally, I'd rather make $12.50 per hour instead of $500. Like, it's that simple. Not only that, but there's just less running around. There's less equipment you need. There's less materials you need to keep on hand. There's just a lot less of all the other BS that you have to deal with. And this is the other reason why I really don't work that much anymore, is because we literally just do like these two, and that's it. Like, that's it. There's other things we could do. Yes, we're leaving money on the table, but guess what? There's a ton of people that just want vinyl and aluminum fences. Whatever your service may be, just start looking at it. And again, it's in the profit planner where it breaks everything down, where you can figure out how much you're making per hour. And you'll probably be shocked, because if you're offering 6 different services, I guarantee one of them is making you the most amount of money with the least amount of effort. And the goal from there is just not to get rid of everything else all at once, but basically start phasing it out. So that one item, if you're only doing it 20% of the time, well, try to get it to 30%, and then 40, and then 50. And then you can slowly start weeding out the other projects that simply aren't making you the money. And that's what we do. Now, if you like videos like this and you want to learn how to work a hell of a lot less while making just as much, if not more, then like and subscribe to the channel. And also, if you found value in this, send it to other people that you know, because this will be super helpful. At least getting a plan together, because if you don't have a plan, then like your business is just going to run on autopilot, and that's not a great thing to have happen. So have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.